3, 2, 1, and we are live. Nick Vitello, what's up, man?
What's going on, man? Thanks for having me.
For sure, buddy. This is the Conversations podcast with your host, Nick Werle. We got two Nicks this week. Here we are, July 16th.
Nick.
It's crazy, man. Midway through summer, it's going so quick, you know?
I know, especially with summertime shy, man. It's starting to open up. Masks are off.
Yeah, I feel like we're trying to cram everything into one summer and like just a couple weekends after the world opened up again, you know?
Yeah, it's feeling like that. You actually had Arpan on one of your other podcasts, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we were just talking about it. It seems like these weekends are feeling like months lately.
Yeah, I know, man. There's so much to do. So what have you been up to the last week or so? I saw you were in Tampa.
Yeah, I was in Tampa. My girlfriend lives out there.
Nice.
Shout out to Nat, just to get that out of the way. Yeah, so she came up for a wedding last weekend, so we drove up to Des Moines, and then Tampa Bay ended up winning the cup. So last minute on Monday, I ended up ordering a ticket, and we flew down there for the parade right there on the river, and then we went to a couple after parties with some of the guys there, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah, I came back last night, and you gave me a call, and then we set this up.
Here we are. Did I hear that you were actually partying with the Bolts players?
Some of them. I mean, so they had a parade there on the river. So I mean, I'm sure you saw some pictures on Instagram and all that. So they were all on the boats. It's kind of similar to when Brady won, I guess Tampa Bay, the Bucks won. And then they had this after party in the park, and I'm standing in the beer line, and I hear these two people behind me, and they say, "Hey," and I'm from Niagara Falls area, right? Yes. So I played hockey mainly in Niagara Falls, but kind of over the bridge as well. So I started talking to them, and they ended up being from Toronto, which is about 45 minutes from me. And we just start shooting the shit and just talking a little bit. And they ended up telling me, hey, the after party is at the Westin there over in Tampa. And that's actually a funny story. So we get there, and the line's out the door, right? Yeah. So I'm like, oh, crap. Because me and Nat started getting serious, right? So I just started meeting her family, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be embarrassing if we don't get in. So I go to the back, and there's this security guard, and I'm like, hey, man, I'm from Chicago. I just flew in. I started doing stats on the guys, right? I'm like, my buddy coached the backup goalie. Might have fabricated.
You're totally scheming. You're just like throwing stats. You're throwing all the little tidbits that'll get you in there.
Yeah. So I get in, and then I walk to the front, and I said, hey, those four are with me. So then the manager let them in, and we had a good time with the team, and we were drinking, and it was a blast. Yeah.
Dude, that's a dream come true. You love the Tampa Bay Bolts, and you got to actually party with them and meet them and just like share that experience with them, right?
Well, I love hockey. I'm now a Bolts fan.
Oh, okay.
But Buffalo's never won anything, so I'm like, this is my opportunity to see a sports parade. So I'm like, I don't know if I'll get a chance again. So I'm like, I got to jump on this opportunity. You know?
Yeah, dude. I'd love to hear more about like your background in sports. I know that you've been doing hockey for a while. You were really, really good at that. I know you've been really good at volleyball. This is a podcast about motivation and how you stay focused on a specific craft, right? Mm-hmm. So let's go back to the beginning, right? You were raised in upstate New York, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had
Western New York, Buffalo, yep.
Okay, and you had West New York, and two parents that pushed you to be excellent at athletics, right?
I had parents that wanted me to be engaged, right?
Okay.
So whether it was sports or hobbies or like participating in like charity or what have you, they just wanted to make sure we were engaged. And I had great parents they made sure we were well-rounded. Hockey was probably my passion growing up. I was never great, but I always made the team, if that makes sense, right? So I was always good enough. But I developed some great relationships. Some of my friends are really involved in the hockey community. Some work in the NHL, some coached NHL and lower level juniors, and now some are doing some recruiting and played some high level hockey. So that allowed me to be introduced to a lot of people. So I'd say I know a lot of people in the hockey community, but I'm not anybody in that community. I ended up playing volleyball my sophomore, junior year of high school, and I went to a camp, and I met up my college coach. He ended up asking me to come play for them. And I did 4 years of NCAA with them. And then I just play leisurely now with you and everybody. And it's fun, you know?
So with the college coach that you met, had you played volleyball even recreationally before that camp?
Not like just gym. Like my buddies were always like, "Hey, come play volleyball." And my
Yeah.
ignorance as a child, I'm like, "Oh, I don't know if volleyball's for me. I'm a hockey player." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, and then I ended up playing volleyball, and being 6'2" didn't hurt too much, at least at the high school
Yeah.
level. Once you go to the
Did,
next level, I'm the small fish in the big pond. But it was a good experience. Yeah.
did you grow to 6'2" really quickly or what?
No, no, no. I was like short. I was like 5'6", 5'7", and then my junior year, I grew like 5 or 6 inches, and then it kind of was my junior senior years when I kind of grew. I
Yeah.
was real short. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
So 4 years of, NCAA
Mhm.
volleyball, men's volleyball. I played in high school myself in Indianapolis, and men's volleyball indoor was, not the most popular sport, but
Mhm.
it's so fun, man. Like
Yeah.
just being able to hit and dig and like, you know, awesome sets, awesome being able to just go from the outside and just crush it down the line,
Mhm.
right? I just love it, man.
Yeah, it's good, and it's good for social too. I'm really happy I picked it up because I mean, hockey's not as accessible here in Chicago as you probably
Yeah.
know. But
Yeah.
volleyball is everywhere. It's a huge volleyball community. I mean, the beach, the indoor. I mean, it's a lot. It's really you met some great people. I mean, I met you through volleyball. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really a good network.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those sports where like after between points you're talking, you're making
Mhm.
jokes, it's
Yeah.
not like super serious and you can kind of
Mhm.
like give the other team shit from across the net too.
Yeah. Yeah.
You told me also that you at some point you were obviously good at volleyball, you were able to play 4 years. You got injured, right?
Yeah. Ironically enough, I never had too many injuries in NCAA. I had some knee issues, but it was more tendonitis and all that. And then I moved to Chicago, as you know, and I went back for Christmas back in, geez, what's 2021 now? Back in 2019, and my friends were playing against each other.
Yeah.
And they're like, so like when you go home, I only have a couple of days. So it was an opportunity to see like 10 guys. So like, hey, come play. I end up going playing. Majority of my friends were actually like had subs. So only a couple of them were there. But like the third or fourth point of the game, somebody went under and, or I might have landed weird. I don't really remember if this is being recorded. So I don't want anybody come back and fact check me on that. But
Yeah.
nevertheless, it was like a pickup volleyball game. And I ended up tearing my ACL, both my meniscuses, and third-degree sprain on my MCL and
Yeah.
LCL. So there was a little bit of a recovery there, but we're back at it and we're having fun.
Yeah. I'm sorry to hear that, man. That must have been horrible. Like I've seen you out there with the brace in your knee and everything, and
Mhm.
like as it relates to that injury, did you bounce back from that super quick, or did you? Some people get depressed or just slow down and become like sad. Like I don't know how
Yeah.
you took that injury and stayed focused in the middle of that.
Lower body injuries were the one thing I always said I didn't want to have. You know what I mean? I've broken bones and fingers and what have you. But lower body injuries were like the one thing I didn't want just because I heard it's so hard to come back from. Um, it kind of happened at the most ideal time if it had to happen because it happened at the end of December. I actually didn't know I tore it till the end of January because I played on it for about because of the
Oh,
swelling. I was
geez.
back in Buffalo and the swelling back down. So then when I came back to Chicago, we had our playoffs and everything. So I'm like, oh, I have to play. Stupid decision. But I ended up playing back on it. And then February 4th, I got my MRI. And then the 10th, they wanted to push my surgery out. I'm like, I need to get this surgery. So I'm like, February 10th, I had it. And then they canceled all elective surgeries. So like I really didn't miss anything because all the gyms were closed,
Yeah.
all the beaches were closed. So if it had to happen, it happened at the right time. You know what I mean? So that was kind of my silver lining. So I kind of rode that one to the sunset. But so then
Yeah.
then when things started opening back up, I'm slowly getting back into it right now. So it's
Yeah.
fun.
And then your work with, Anton Parr, you travel quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to hear more about that. It seems like you're able to bounce back from the injury. Even just what you did, you framed it as well, like gratefulness. That's a strategy for dealing with setback, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
being able to look at the bright side. But when you're traveling and stuff, and you're in Memphis, back and forth from Chicago or other factories, what's that been like?
Yeah, so in the beginning, the travel was kind of difficult because I had like a straight leg, and then I had to carry all this equipment. I had this one, I forgot what the machine was called, but you pretty much would sit there and your leg would go and it would bend it for you. I guess I'll go this way. It would bend it for you and bring you back out, so to get you that mobility back.
Okay.
So I did that for like 3 months, and it was okay because like I was in the hotels, so I mean I wasn't being peer pressured into meeting people out for dinners or what have you back here. So I mean it worked out for the rehab. But traveling wise, like you were asking about Anton Par still on the knee, I guess.
Yeah. So on Anton Par, kind of switching gears, you're an engineer by trade, right?
Yep, industrial. Got my
So
master's.
your job is to make all the machines in factories, manufacturing plants, et cetera, like work smoothly or, work better. What's the role specifically?
Yeah, so I mean, I identify as an engineer. If I identify in any industry, I guess it would be pharmaceutical industry, manufacturing, which we can touch on in a little bit. But from there, my brother actually worked on Anton Par for a different product group, rheology at the time. There was an opening in Chicago for process instrumentation, which is like right in my wheelhouse. That's manufacturing, right? So I design and sell solutions for anything with a liquid. So majority of my business is your beverage, right? So I'm in the bourbon belt quite a bit, all your breweries. I don't really want to name any names just for
Yeah,
NDA
no, that's
purposes,
fair.
but every major brewery in the United States that's in my territory, I'm definitely in. I actually worked with one pharmaceutical company on the COVID drug, which was pretty cool because I got to use my background a little bit. But my
Cool.
instrumentation it's more of a quality metric, but for a lot of industries, it's approved by their regulatory body, so like they could eliminate some quality checks because it will allow you to tell you that whatever this liquid is the correct concentration or makeup, right? So if it's beer, it's the right Plato and ABV alcohol level,
Yeah.
or if it's if it's like so like I do I have a bourbon skid down in Kentucky, right, and it allows you to cut the bourbon quicker, right? So for single barrel, because they don't want to lose any product because it's only a single barrel. That's what they're putting on the label there, right?
Yeah.
It allows you to optimize that amount of product because when they barrel it, it's a certain proof, and then they got to cut it down to the correct alcohol percentage. So I mean, I
Yeah.
guess alcohol is probably my biggest.
Yeah, that's cool, man. With bourbon and whiskey specifically, I know that there's like one specific ingredient that is like a 30% or something, and one doesn't have barley or rye or something. And people are really particular about that like their bourbon.
Yeah, it's becoming more of a craft nowadays. Yeah, there's a lot of bigger distilleries that are starting to get into the craft spirits, which is kind of interesting as well.
Yeah.
And the seltzer has taken off. I mean, COVID has affected a lot of people during this pandemic, but everybody kept on drinking. So I mean, sort of all the alcohol. So it was pretty good for that aspect of my life.
Yeah, I don't want to name the brand or the manufacturer, but I remember you sent a video of there were hundreds of thousands of boxes going past this like machine over the course of a day. It's like, oh my gosh, like they're creating and just producing so much of this seltzer. And it's odd to think how many Americans love Trulies and White Claws and even Bud Light seltzer.
Yeah. So like my biggest client, it actually worked out, and I developed a great relationship with the one guy there. They're a CMO, which is a contract manufacturing organization. So when somebody can't, when a company can't is over capacity, they'll have to outsource that manufacturing, and they're actually the largest brewer in the United States because they take on everybody's excess, right? Yeah. So you have every brewery, I can name names now, like Molson, Truly, White Claw. I mean, because they're making everybody's beer right there for them. But the funny part was during COVID, there was an aluminum shortage, right? And I don't know exactly where that manufacturing site was, but I guess they make majority of the cans, and they usually operate at like 70% capacity, but they were above 100%. And all these, your Pepsis, your ABs, your Molsons, they were all saying, "Hey guys, like where are the cans?" And they're like, "Well, we're not going to build another line because after the pandemic, we're not going to need that line, and it's like $1 million to put that in." So I think they're all pulling together to help that aluminum shortage right there for the can manufacturing. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that with COVID, a lot of like supply chains are being really, really stressed. I mean, for instance, it's hard to find some products still. Some restaurants don't have like their main thing. They'll say we're out of this due to supply chain shortages. And, I get it. If demand went to a halt even 6 months ago, like it takes time to start building the supply up again.
Yeah, customs is difficult. So Anton Par, they're a Austrian company, right? So all of our manufacturing happens there. So they'll ship it we're a separate business unit is what we consider ourselves. So they'll ship our orders to the US, but they have to clear customs, and customs has taken a lot longer than usual too. So I'm sure that's affecting all other verticals or industries as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I can see you're passionate about what you do. You know, you're doing the engineering on a daily basis. You said that you're also doing some sales. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's kind of a both. I'd say I'm more on the sales end now.
Okay.
But I mean, I still help design and the solutions, because depending on are we retrofitting, are we putting in a new line? I mean, there are utilities and everything that have to be involved. So there is a degree of design, but a lot of it's copy and paste. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's what do you want the quality metric to be, and then how can we help you find that solution?
Yeah. You know, I'm in sales. I do tech sales. I manage some Chicago and Indiana accounts for a big tech company. And, you know, like I love sales. I've been doing sales for 8-9 years, and it's been a great career for me, but really interested to hear putting your engineering hat on or your design hat and then transitioning into sales. How do you manage that flow? You know what I mean?
Say that one more time. I guess
I'm wondering, do you switch your hat, right? Like, okay, now today I'm going to focus on engineering, or due to this RFP, I simply have to focus on winning this next bid or this next customer. You know, like, how do you switch your mindset between the left brain, mathematical, there's a problem, there's a solution, to maybe a more fluid, subjective right brain sales methodology around, okay, this is what it's going to take to win this client. It's a lot more ambiguous, right? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'd say the big part is, from moving to the sales end, is it's really when I was on the ops side, I had a lot more control over the entire project, right? And when you're on the sales end, it's really, what do we need, or what do you want, and how can we get you there, right? But majority of the time, they just want to be heard. You know what I mean? They want, a lot of sales is just listening and just getting them the solution that they're looking for. You can propose opportunities. I'll bring alternatives, right? We can do X, Y, and Z, and I'll explain the benefits of that. But ultimately, it's up to the customer what they could afford, what they're looking for, and does it satisfy all their needs? So I mean, that's kind of, so it's, sales is a little bit of a humbling experience, as you know, as well, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to take it on the chin, and even if you believe they are wrong, I mean, they're ultimately the customer, and you need to provide them what they're looking for. So I would say sales, it was a shift to the dark side, but it's been fun. Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting what you said about just listening. I mean, that's blocking and tackling 101 of sales. Listen to what their concerns are. And of course, we're all motivated in sales to sell a specific product or a solution or maximize the revenue, whatever that metric is. But when it comes down to it, you have to put it in the customer's best interest, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, until they get there with you and you guys agree that that's in their best interest, you're probably not going to make a sale, right? You have to, you can't speak into an abyss. There needs to be a give and a take and a listening aspect to everything that you do when you're selling something, you know?
Mm-hmm. I think the best thing that could have happened to me for at least sales was that I was from manufacturing, and like, for instance, my brother, he's way smarter than I am. But he deals with like research labs and all these very, very smart people, which are more his wavelength, right? However, they're also very smart people. So, and they're asking all these very technical questions, which I don't think I would do as well in. But because I'm from manufacturing and I've been on that side of the sale, right? I have been the purchaser, working with sales reps or sales engineers, whatever. I kind of know how that sales process goes, right? So I kind of know how to maneuver my way through there. Who has the purchasing power? The purchasing cycle. What their real needs are. Well, like output's pretty much critical for manufacturing.
Yeah.
Right? So I kind of know the avenues to go, which has allowed me to be successful in my role.
A lot of salespeople, they do lack that technical expertise that you have. So if you can get into an industry where you know the day in, day out of the people that are doing the functional work, it just makes you that much more, suited for a role inside that industry where you can actually create revenue, right? Because you're able to feel and empathize with the pains around it,
Mm-hmm. And I think one thing that engineers sometimes lack is they have a tendency to over engineer, right?
Okay.
So and I kind of stay away from that only because I know that the customer does not want that, right? So when you tend to over engineer, it tends to cost more money for them and then ends up not bringing the true value to them. So I think that's another point that I stick to.
Yeah, for sure, man. And don't say more than you have to here, but as
Yeah.
it relates to your ability to put on multiple hats, curious more about your entrepreneurial pursuits, things that you might want to do after Anton Par or, in 20 years from now, ideas for restaurants or coffee shops or whatever it is. Like, can you talk about that?
Yeah, that's not a problem. Thank you for walking around that though.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're opening a restaurant called Bubble Maki down here in Chicago. Our goal is to have three of them in the city by the end of the year. So we're hoping to be the Chipotle style for sushi, right? However, we do have some custom rolls as well as bubble tea. So that's the bubble aspect, maki being the sushi, but we also have a completely vegan menu as well, which we'll be using under the name Cloud Maki.
Okay.
We're hoping to launch here in August. I do majority
Cool.
of the work on the weekends and the evenings right now because I'm at capacity here with Anton Par. But I mean, it's been a ride, and my partner, Greg, he's been great. He's a serial entrepreneur, and I've learned a lot from him.
Yeah.
And it's exciting, and we'll have to get you in there. But we have some two great consultants out of California. We have a great team in the Ukraine. Our chef, he flew in. His name's Doug. He's helped us make some custom rolls as well as sauces, so they're going to be kind of proprietary to our brand as well.
Nice.
And then when we're working on our storefronts, it's going to be very Instagrammy, very trendy, very hip, but it's going to be fast casual. You know what I mean? It's going to be easily accessible, affordable, and quality ingredients. There's other missions as well, but I'm going to leave that up to my PR team to kind of finalize the wording there because they're working on the social media as we speak. So it's going to be exciting, but I'll make sure you get out to that soft opening when we have that.
Love it, man. So fast casual, sushi, bubble tea. And did I miss a specific?
Well, there's a vegan aspect as well.
Yeah.
So we'll have a vegan, because there's not, I guess there's one popping up on a food truck in California now, but nobody has penetrated that niche yet. But we want to be a national brand. So we're hoping to have three this year. So we're in we hope to be in a we have our ghost kitchen opening. Let's look at more like August 1st. The application process took a little bit longer than that.
Yeah.
But we have a good team on board, and we're excited. Yeah.
Good for you, man. What made you want to do a restaurant? Was it knowing Greg, your partner, or was there another venture you were looking at?
It was just kind of, I don't want to say it fell in my lap. I met a girl a couple years ago named Stephanie, and her and I have always been like active acquaintances. So she was part of another startup. I don't want to necessarily name names just in case I can.
Sure.
But when she left that startup, Greg was one of the investors and asked her to come pursue this opportunity with him. And she has her own vision. She's doing this traveling training. So she has she'll come to you in her car with weights or whatever workouts program that you're looking for, and she'll train you one-on-one or in groups, but she's called the traveling trainer. So she introduced me to Greg because she knew that I was interested in being part of a startup. We always had that conversations. We'd have passive conversations here and there. And Greg and I met, and we kind of hit it off. And I took on some responsibility, on the side, on the evenings, on the weekends, and it kind of turned into this. And now I'm co-founder with him here. He's majority stake, but minority owner, and we're excited about it.
Yeah, dude. Congrats on that venture. I love that you said it's a niche market that hasn't been tapped yet. You've done your research, specifically where you're going to go into, because restaurants, they're one of the highest percentage of failing startups as compared to other types of industries. So all the best of luck to you, man. It sounds like you guys have a great plan ahead of you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. We do have a good consultant out of California. His name's Robert. He is strictly a consultant for restaurants. So he from huge chains to just local restaurants, and he has a lot of expertise. So he's been giving us a lot of good advice and guidance.
I realized how I said that was like, oh, good luck. Yeah. But I really mean it, man. I'm sure that your team, the experience you guys have together, whether it's consultants or serial entrepreneurs, your work ethic, you guys are set up to succeed. So again, nothing but the best to you.
Thank you.
Cool,
I say
man.
my prayers every day.
Love it. So dude, let's wrap up in like 5-10 minutes, but I want to hear about this story again. My listeners, I know they would love this.
Okay.
Don't go too far into how this happened, but everyone has been at some point in their life a victim of like some sort of identity theft or fraud or something. Can you please do your best to recount that story of what happened to you that night and just the intricacies of what they were able to do with your cards and your information? It's just so crazy, you know?
Yeah. That was quite the experience. So I was working for Anton Par. I was supposed to be in Graz for a product training. And we ended up having a situation where the trainers had to allocate their resources to another task. So they ended up canceling that. And that was on November 1st. So, but they let us know on the 31st if they could cancel. So they canceled. So I texted my one buddy up and I said, hey, I'll be in town. If you guys are still going out for Halloween, let me know. So I go out for Halloween. We're at Celeste downtown.
Yep.
And I end up leaving. And next thing I end up leaving, and these two people give me a ride home. And next thing I know, it's like 2:30 in the afternoon, and I'm like, what's going on here? I start looking around.
So you left at like 2 or 3 in the morning,
like 2:30, 3 o'clock, yeah.
And then you wake up and it's 12 hours later.
Yeah, and I'm like, what's going on? What's going on here? And I go grab my iWatch, and it has that red circle of death. I'm like, oh, come on. I mean, I've lost my phone before. I go on like find my iPhone, nowhere to be found. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So then I'm walking around and I'm just getting my bearings straight. And I find my wallet, and on my wallet, I have my main card, but behind there, I have other cards. They took 2 of those cards, and then they took all the cash except for one. And I'm like, oh, are you kidding me?
Did you? So you realized at that point what happened? No iPhone.
5 o'clock in the afternoon, dude.
And
I was like 2 hours, and I'm like, no idea what's going on. I'm still like processing the evening. I ended up finding out that I was date raped, right?
Yeah, oh my God.
Yeah. I ended up finding that out through some tests. And through some tests, the blood work and all that, I ended up being date raped. And I filed the police report, all that. And so pretty much when I filed the police report, the police said, hey, the dollar amount is not high enough. Sorry. There was transactions. All the transactions on my credit cards were in Wisconsin, which, as you know, is in a different state.
So a few hours after you realized your cards are gone, or you went to your bank website on your laptop or whatever you had access to still, and you saw just the level of transactions that took place, right?
Absolutely wild, dude. Absolutely wild. I was sick to my stomach. So my Venmo was maxed out. I think it was like 3,500. I think my PayPal was like 75 or 8,500.
Oh my God.
Transfer cash. They started using my Uber Eats, and they were sending food around. They ranked those credit cards. I was like $70,000 in like fraudulent funds, man.
So you're saying through Venmo, through all your credit cards,
Uber Eats, everything. But then they started changing all my usernames and passwords, right?
Oh,
so
this is where it gets crazy. So after they did this stuff, then they locked you out of your account. Like, to go to that level of fucked upness is like, I have no faith in humanity anymore.
They were professionals. They knew exactly what they were doing. I mean, I don't know if I was targeted specifically, but they knew what they were doing. But yeah, so like if they had your email, they would make your email my Uber email, and then they would make Joe Schmo's my Apple, and they would change that. They would change the passwords, all that. I filed a police report. The police said, hey, the dollar amount's pretty much not high enough for the FBI to get involved because it's across state borders.
Yeah.
So file for fraud and hope for the best. I went to Apple. I mean, I brought my social security card. I brought all my identification. They're like, hey, we know this is you, but you don't know what your mother's last name is because they changed all my questions. So I lost all my contacts, which is probably more valuable than anything else, because if I ever lost a job, or I mean, there was information on there pictures that I'll never get back of my grandparents, my family, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
there's a lot of valuable stuff on there. So it was pretty much a start over, but fortunately I got everything back through fraud except for the cash that they took. But we could laugh at that now, but it was a
Yeah.
headache for about 6 months, but it was a,
Yeah. I mean, dude, I feel for you. I can only imagine what that day must have felt like. And then seeing your bank statements, just seeing it's like everywhere you turned, I'd imagine there was another layer of this where it's like,
yeah,
okay, now Uber Eats. Like, are you kidding me? Like,
yeah.
it's
It was
so
crazy,
wild.
man. Yeah, it was wild.
So you,
But
you said 60 to 70,000. Where did most of that fraud come from? Was it like
so
cashier's
they were
checks or
they were no, they were at like grocery stores up there, like or like Sam's Club esque stores, ordering like TVs, and they were
yeah,
buying everything. They bought everything. It was not cash. It was like they were just buying. They were just
it's on credit
unloading it.
cards.
So
Yeah.
my buddy ended up sending me an article like 6 months later that that they caught two individuals that had a similar story. So I don't know if that's mine. I didn't jump on that bandwagon of hey, I'm raising
Yeah.
this right. Because if you put 15 people in front of me, I couldn't tell you what these people looked like.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you. But it's a story nevertheless.
Yeah.
Now.
Well, I mean, a couple things. It shows the danger of just what can
Yeah.
happen to you. Like you're 6'2", pretty
Yeah.
like fit guy.
Yeah.
And you have no idea, like, obviously have good wits about you. We all go out and stuff, but like very reasonable thing to, meet people at a bar and like all of a sudden to have it be 12 hours the next day. It's like, holy shit. Like,
Yeah.
um,
It was scary. I mean, I'm fortunate enough not to lose a kidney or something,
yeah, I mean, and your attitude about it, even right now, is like, you're not sad and like depressed about it. You're just like laughing it off. And, it is amazing that banks are able to, have those kinds of fraud programs and pay guys like us back, or people that, are their customers. But just a crazy story, man.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay. So I ask everyone a question on this podcast.
Okay.
For you, let's see. Would you rather be the peak of your abilities in hockey or the peak of your abilities in volleyball, and why?
Oh, I mean, of my abilities, volleyball, I was better at volleyball than I was at hockey, so it's pretty easy. If I could choose, I mean, I would have. All my friends will probably give me shit, but I would probably still say volleyball. Volleyball was just is a great outlet for me here in Chicago. I moved here knowing nobody, and being okay at volleyball, it allowed me to play at all levels, so I could be more social and everything like that. So, I mean, volleyball was probably the best thing I ever picked up because I think it's something that I could play for the rest of my life until I can't move anymore, even at like lower levels. You know what I mean? So it was a good outlet for me. I'd probably say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, dude, it's a fun sport. Um, if you could have gone to the next level and the next level, whether it's beach or indoor, like, was there ever a time that you considered, if you didn't get injured, like, how far do I go with this?
I mean, you always have that thought, but I mean, there's not that much money in volleyball. You know what I mean? Not saying that I could have even done that. But I mean, it was just the corporate route was just more of a financial decision or smarter decision at the time. So I'm happy it didn't. But I mean, it was my goal to play in the NHL when I was a kid. You know what I mean? That would have been awesome.
Always. Yeah. I love basketball too, but being 5'10", and I'm a great shooter, but
who do you have for the finals here?
Oh, dude, I would love to see a great series. I'm just happy that it's Suns and Bucks, two team basketball teams. It's not just like LeBron versus Kawhi or something. And I love those guys too, but any given night, Booker could go off, or Chris Paul, or Giannis, or Middleton. So I'm hoping for a 6 or 7 game series, and I think the Suns will take it in the end. But
I hope they do. I hope CP3 gets it. Yeah,
I think that's what the NBA is gonna put a capstone on his career with. We'll see. But yeah, dude, it's been a great time getting to know you and hanging out with the volleyball crew. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
For sure, buddy. All right. Have a good rest of the weekend, and I'll see you soon.
All right, brother. Take care.
Bye.